Thank you.
I volunteered to drive the non-AC work.
The non-AC one, what a guy.
You're toughing it out.
What a guy, yeah.
What
right.
a guy.
Lost my pen. No, here it is. I had it buried. All right, well, let's call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Have y'all looked at those?
I have.
Yeah, they look fine.
They look fine. All right, we'll just accept them as is and we'll move on to new precinct map.
Yes. So when Fayetteville completed their ward map,
Oh, yeah.
we went ahead and instead of doing splits in the Fayetteville precincts, it's always best to have it as a whole precinct. So we went back to the city of Fayetteville and all those precincts and pulled out where there was a split in the precinct due to a ward. So that created several new precincts, and it also created some precincts where we changed the precinct lines.
Oh,
And then for the city of Prairie Grove, there was an annexation. And so we actually had to create a new precinct for that annexation because there was a difference in the JPs. And so, and then in Springdale 23, if you're looking at the Excel sheet, those new precinct changes, and it's not additional precincts, it's just the precinct lines are due to annexations. So this will clean up our maps.
You say Springdale, there it is, okay.
Yeah.
middle of the page.
So
Okay.
just to make sure I understand, we had designated new precincts and changed the lines for precincts after we drew the JP maps and the other redistricting was done, but the city of Fayetteville hadn't done its maps yet. So that process has just been completed. So we've changed some of the lines for precincts, added a couple of new precincts.
Yes, that's correct. We try not to do splits except
Yeah.
for school districts. It makes reporting easier. It makes our ballot setup easier. So anytime, and the city of Fayetteville is the only city in Washington County that actually votes by ward. Otherwise, we don't pay attention to it. So for instance, in Springdale, Elm Springs, those cities don't vote by ward, but for the city of Fayetteville, they do.
Can we let, I don't know if we have a list of these folks, but anyone who's requested precincts this year know about these precinct changes, and anybody whose district is affected by these changes know that the changes have happened? I'm just thinking about candidates or people who've asked for precincts, who are relying on data that's now gonna be outdated based on us drawing these new precincts.
So I will let Becky know that since
Yeah.
that request typically comes from her office. Now for the city of Fayetteville, those candidates running in the wards are the only ones that are going to kind of see that difference because even if someone had an old precinct list, if you were in a JP district that was running, it doesn't change the people in your list. It's still going to be the same, but I certainly will bring that up to Becky and ask her to look at that.
Cool, thank you.
But there were also, you say there were also some annexations that created some precinct
Yeah.
changes?
Yes, so in the city of Springdale in particular, these precinct line changes are due to annexations, and then there was one in the city of Prairie Grove.
So these maps that you have attached are the pertinent places where the lines were changed? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, so we're required whenever we do a precinct change to submit the information to the state GIS.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll file this with Becky's office, so we have to attach the new information, the map, and then of course the shape files.
Okay.
And that will all be submitted so that everyone's mapping system will then all be the same.
Okay.
So the state will have the information, our county will have the information, the county assessors, 911, all of
Hopefully
that will
some
have all of that.
consistency.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we need to approve this. So, gentlemen, any questions? Any comments or concerns?
No. I'll make a motion to approve the new precinct map as presented in the map and the Excel changes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. We've got a motion to approve and a second to accept what Jennifer has presented, which I assume you've gotten from, say, the Northwest Regional. They've looked up, they've created the shape files and so forth for this.
So actually,
No?
the county had been working on getting someone for, as a GIS person for the county.
Okay.
So we actually utilized that individual. We've worked with Daryl. It's Daryl. He used to work in the emergency planning part of the 911. And so now he is doing the GIS in the IT department. So we actually worked with Daryl to get the maps and everything. So hopefully going forward, we can do this all within the county. I mean, Northwest Regional is great and is a wonderful resource, but to be able to utilize someone that the
Of
county
course.
has is what we did for this project.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, there's a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
And
The
then I
motion
have
passes.
the
Oh,
order
okay,
for you
we've
to
gotta
sign as well.
Sign it.
And Becky has already been able to be working on getting the voters pulled into
Oh, good.
into the correct precincts so that everyone gets the correct
How many
ballots.
voters are affected by these changes? Do you know?
I don't know, and I don't know that Becky has run that
Right.
number.
Okay.
I do know that several of the new precincts we created actually have less than 10 voters in
Oh.
them. And so that one in Prairie Grove has 3 voters in it. So it's
Is that this one?
yes.
Ah.
Well, and then the Prairie
I mean,
Grove
that
one.
actually is with that, but it's.
This one
oh,
right
that
here.
one. Yeah.
If you
Okay.
look, when Daryl printed the maps, there's house numbers, so you can see there's
Oh,
2
gotcha.
houses in
Okay.
that Prairie Grove City
Wow.
5. And unfortunately, that's a JP line,
Oh.
and so we
Yeah.
had to create a new precinct.
Okay.
And when we were creating the JP districts, we didn't know about that annexation. Otherwise, we would have followed
Right. Yeah.
that
would've-
new city map. So
Okay. Wow. Hopefully, there'll be some other people move into that. Okay, ballot approval. Let's look at ballots for the general election.
I printed every single ballot for you. And basically, the only thing I didn't include in the big folder is that back page. It's the
Oh, yeah.
same for every single ballot. It's that issue
Right.
4. But I did print the PDF of the express vote for you to look
Okay.
just at Boston and Springdale 3. Basically, this is everything we've been discussing, the ballot layout, the columns. This reflects the order of the candidates. And so we would just need the commission's approval for these ballots.
Okay.
And we are proofing and going along, and we'll look and see if there's any edits that need to be made.
Okay.
I need to look at this spacing on that express vote. I don't remember seeing it on there. If you'll, in this Washington County special election, there's spacing right there, but this may be just because of how the PDF was
Oh, yeah.
created. We'll double check to make sure that
Yeah.
it doesn't look that way on the screen itself.
Okay.
But those are the type of little things that we kind of look
Yeah.
for when we are going through proofing.
Okay. anybody really gonna read issue number 4?
Yes, somebody will.
And we'll need to be mindful, the express votes, eventually, if there's inactivity, will time out. So if a voter,
How long?
10 minutes.
Of not touching the screen?
Of not touching the screen. So
That's
it's
a
not the
long time.
voter being at the screen,
Right.
it's inactivity.
Isn't there technically a law, you've got to vote within?
There is.
Oh, that's
Not
right,
that
yeah.
that
Oh,
would
we
hold up
never-
or anyone would enforce it, but
Yeah.
there
No.
is.
But there is.
What is it, 5 or 10 minutes?
It's 10 minutes.
10 minutes,
And
yeah,
so, but for the express vote, we will need to just kind of remind our poll workers
To watch.
to watch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's a
It
long
will
time.
start beeping at them.
Oh,
We
good.
had it
Cool.
happen a couple of times for the primary.
kidding.
And so, with this ballot language on there, but
Yeah.
it's complete inactivity. So if you are just standing in front of there, not touching anything, not moving the screen,
But you can touch it and what does it do? Reset? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe if it looks like somebody is going to activate that, then the poll workers should be aware and just go up and lightly tap it or something.
Well, no, because you wouldn't want to disturb the voter as they're voting.
True.
We don't know for sure, but I would suspect too that if a voter maybe took a phone call in the middle of voting,
Oh,
because the ballot for the primary was relatively small, there wasn't a lot of things on
Yeah.
it. So if they kind of just quit voting, then we had it happen a couple of times.
all right.
So-
If that happens, does it kick the ballot back out?
Yes, so essentially
Okay.
the voter has to start completely over,
Ah,
and
There, or have to go back to
There,
check it?
no.
Oh.
no, we're able to just, the ballot will be returned,
Okay.
and then we put it back in, and the voter starts
okay.
over. That may be part of our instructions that we give to
Yeah.
the voters, if there's inactivity. It's not, we definitely don't want them to think that we're timing them for
No.
10 minutes,
No.
but inactivity would.
Well,
cause
I
that.
mean, and that's a good thing that it'll kick it back out, and starting over is not an awful thing.
Right, they don't have to do any, they don't have to do anything else. They don't have to spoil the ballot, they don't
Good.
have to fill out any extra paperwork or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
All right, gentlemen, looking at the ballots, the express vote, I mean, I guess it's not gonna actually be any different for all of them that we've got printed out here.
Yeah, I've reviewed the 2 representative express vote
Okay.
ballots. Those are fine to me.
Okay.
Good to me.
That's it.
Can I have a motion on that,
I will
please?
move that we approve the sample ballots as presented.
Okay,
Jennifer.
with the caveat that if they do find a typo or something like that, that can be
I agree.
changed. And this one
I agree with that.
spacing issue.
Cool.
All right,
Second.
so we have this motion to approve the ballots as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, move forward, ladies.
and then we will post these to
Oh, good.
both our
Okay.
website and Voter View, but that will be
Oh,
probably
yeah.
once we get closer to absentee ballots
Yeah.
going out.
Okay. Now, when you post them, are you posting the proof on them?
We actually post the express vote
The express
ballot.
vote ones, okay.
So, we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the proofing.
Okay.
I feel like posting the express vote ballot is more representative of what a voter will actually
They'll
see
see it,
on
yeah.
election day, so that there's no expectation that they're actually gonna get a
Good point.
physical paper ballot at the polls.
Good point. Okay, notice of election for November the 8th. We've got early vote sites here.
So I have included in the notice, the commission has not officially voted on the early vote site. So if there's any
Oh.
changes, we'll need to just note.
Okay.
We've been discussing them.
Right, but we've never
talked about
taken
the
a vote.
hours. The commission has not actually voted on these. The front page is representative of the early vote sites that we had for the primary election. The quorum courtroom will be open for the full 2 weeks of early voting plus the Monday before. And then
Is that the only place open on the Monday
that's the
before?
only place
Yeah.
open on the Monday before. Then Covenant, Elmdale, and Tawnytown will all be open for the full 2 weeks with the exception of the Monday.
Okay.
And then Elkins, Prairie Grove, West Fork will be open the first Saturday of early vote, but not the second Saturday or the Monday before. And then in Tawnytown, we will have to close early on November the 1st. They have a city council meeting, and so it's really hard to move that city council meeting. So our hours that day would be from 8 to 4:30, on
At least
on
it's
that week, too.
part of the day, which is
yeah.
good.
Oh, which is great. So, so these would be the hours for our offsite early
Okay.
vote. If there's any changes that you want to make to the hours, we would need to note that, and you would need to vote on
Yeah.
on those changes.
Okay.
And then the limited offsite early voting. This would be American Legion Hall, which is in Springdale. We would be there the first week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 until 6. Bud Walton, which would be week 1, we would be there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 8 until 6. The Fayetteville Public Library would be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those hours are 9 to 6 because the library doesn't open
Oh,
until
yeah.
9. And then Rise Physical Therapy would be the Friday and Saturday of the first week from 8 to 6 and then 10 to 4 on Saturday. And then week 2, we would have Lincoln Community Center open Thursday and Friday, and then Walton Arts Center open Monday and Tuesday.
Did you mark that? Week 2, that needs to be bold.
Oh, I will, yes.
Okay. I thought that's what you were marking there.
Oh, no,
I
this
was
is
gonna-
one for you to sign, but I will
Okay.
bold that.
And I was wondering, could we go ahead on the first page and make in red the Washington County Open Monday? We've got the other places that are all closed on Monday, but I think it's probably helpful to show that we do have a place open on
Yes,
Monday.
I can highlight that.
Okay.
Now, when I post this online, it's posted in a different
Oh, right.
format.
Okay.
This is what gets published in the paper, but I'll definitely
Oh,
make
yeah.
those additions for the paper.
Okay.
But
You
yeah,
always make a PDF of the early vote.
yes.
Yeah. and-
And you can send that to us when you get that.
Yeah,
I will.
and it really could be posted on the website as if somebody wanted to download it.
Yes, I can do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, good call.
Okay. Any questions on these things, gentlemen?
No, it looks fun to me. Jim?
I'm good.
Cool. I'll make a motion to approve the,
Let's do it one at a time. Let's first of all approve the locations. Because we
Sure.
have not voted on those to this point.
sure, you want me to do just election day, early vote? You want to do an early vote
Should
on
we do
election day?
just early vote?
Yeah,
Or
do early
Do them
vote.
separately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the early vote sites, as presented here,
Okay,
in this notice of election.
okay.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the election day vote centers as presented.
So this has the one change for Springdale Rec Center to Temple
Oh,
Baptist
right,
Church.
yeah.
So
I saw
just
that.
to note,
Thank you.
that.
now, I am a little concerned with Yvonne being up here and not down
So
here.
I will, when I fix this for your PDFs, I will have more control over it. This document will just be filed with the county clerk's
Oh,
office.
gotcha.
And
okay.
obviously, when it's published in the paper, it
Yeah,
looks
it'll be
different.
spread out.
But
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll make a PDF of the early vote, then I make a PDF of the election day.
Okay.
So I'll clean all
Okay,
that up
good.
when I make the PDFs.
Good.
Sounds good.
Okay, I do have a question. Let's vote on these election day vote centers. before we do anything else?
Did you finish?
Yeah, I guess I've got a motion on the table to approve these election day vote centers as presented on the notice of election.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving on. All the candidates are listed here. I have a question about City of Elkins, Delia Foster. I mean, clearly, she's going to be
Oh.
position number 3.
No, I need to put a space in there.
Oh, okay.
She actually is unopposed. There just needs to be
I
CC
see.
City Clerk.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
just need to go in and put a space in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I didn't even look at the office. Okay, we've already approved, we've already worked on all these candidates, so I guess all we really need to do with the rest of it then is approve as presented and move on to filing it.
Yeah.
That and the dates and times for the canvassing. That's the
Oh, where's
that's the
that?
last after the state ballot issues.
Okay.
That's the last portion of it. So we would we have a meeting set in October to approve the poll workers.
Oh, okay.
And then that list would be made available October the 17th. Anyone with objections to any of our poll workers would have until October the 24th. So that's set by
Right.
by law. And
When does
then
that get published?
It's posted in the county clerk's
Oh,
office. It's
okay.
not actually published.
Okay.
It's just posted in the county clerk's office.
Gotcha.
But we will have a public meeting where the commission will meet to approve the list of election officials. And then absentee ballot canvassing, we will start that on the Tuesday of the second week of early vote,
Oh.
which would be November the 1st.
First,
And that will be in room 115, and we'll work 9 to 4 each
Okay.
day. That is open to the public, and we do live stream it as well. And then election day. This would be when we would meet here in the quorum courtroom, and the canvassers would start to actually open that inner ballot secrecy envelope. And then I have that we would start counting, which the counting would be just putting the ballots into the DS200s starting at 10 o'clock that day. And that gives us time if we have ones that we're having to remake or we
Right.
need to separate them. It gives us plenty of time before the polls close at 7:30 to have all of that complete. And then, of course, results are not tabulated and released until after 7:30.
Right, okay. Any questions, guys?
No question.
Any comments?
No. Looks fine.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the plan, I guess? Doesn't have a title here, so
No.
canvassing plan, how about that?
Sure, as so moved.
All right,
And I second if that was a motion.
yes. We're very brief on our motions here.
Right.
All right, we have a motion to approve the canvassing in, plan, and, all in favor? Aye.
Then I have one for the commission
Oh,
to
another
sign
one,
with
okay.
the
Sign your
signatures.
whole notice. You've got
Yeah,
one.
I've got one with
Good.
signatures on it, and that we will file with the county clerk's office, but then, of course, it will get published in the paper, 20 days or it'll be published on the Sundays,
Oh,
twice
yeah.
before the
Okay.
election. And then all this information will be posted on our website, as well.
They're all
Oh,
in
he's,
right
oh,
I
okay.
got it right here.
Okay, perfect.
Stack of six.
Yep.
It's a
signed
whole lot
documents.
easier to just leave it over
signed,
there.
yeah.
All right, let's go on to the write-in procedure instructions.
Okay, so after our conversation that we had at the last meeting, And John Moody was here from ES&S, and he came to look at our poll books. We asked him about, because I'd noticed on one of the reports that we ran from the DS200 that there was a line that said to capture the write-in vote unmarked. And so I asked John Moody if there was a way for us to set up the election so that if someone actually writes the name but without filling in the oval, the machine would actually catch that and count that as a vote, and then we could go back and review it to see what name they wrote. Because otherwise, you know, it's about the intent of the voter.
Sure.
The voter had intended
Right.
to vote for that, and even though we've given them instructions and they've just written the name there.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit clearer of an item to, you know, make some sense out of.
Right. So what we did was we worked with John, and so the ballots, there's no difference on the ballot that you see. It's just in the programming and how the machine is picking up the information. So what I have for you is an example of when we tested this. We ran the ballots through the DS200, and if you'll notice where we voted for Richard Grant, we just wrote the name in. We didn't fill the oval in, but it actually captures the vote for that candidate. And then, of course, the commission will be able to review
Adjudicate that, yeah.
all of those. And so if the commission likes this plan, this would be something that we will keep in the ballot and the
Yeah.
formatting of it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when a person writes in the name of the candidate, their intent is clearly to vote for
Exactly.
that candidate. That was a software programming issue with ES&S.
Yeah.
So thank you for fixing that. Is
Yeah, that's
ES&S gonna change that for all the other counties in the state?
I don't know.
Well, they should.
They
Or that
should.
can you flip that to the State Board of Election, the State Board, that this issue that, I think it's worth sharing that with them. Because
Yeah.
this is an issue that's gonna impact other counties
Other
in the
counties,
state.
absolutely.
And ES&S's programming should be consistent across the
Yes.
board for all
Yeah.
the counties in the state.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's worth sending it to them so they can verify that.
Yeah.
Thank you for making sure that worked. You set up that way for Washington County, though.
Yeah, we did. This is set up for Washington County. We shared it with Benton County as
Oh,
well,
good.
the instructions on how to do it. But I just, you know, we went back and looked at it, and sure enough, there was a way. And
That's
so
great.
this is what
Super.
how it will do. That was another thing we tested yesterday to
Good.
make sure that it actually worked. And so this is the example of actually how it didn't work.
These numbers at the head of each area, are those the sticks or?
No, that's actually, and we'll get into that a little bit when we get into the FOIA request.
Oh, gotcha.
This is actually just a randomized number that is assigned to that ballot.
Okay.
It's not in any type of order or anything like that. It's just a completely random number.
Okay.
Now, this report was run out of the DS200. We will not run this report out of the DS200 on election night because it runs it by precinct, whether there's a write-in candidate there or not.
Yeah.
We're able to run this report out of our computer election night, so
Okay.
in a much simpler form.
Yeah.
But this was an easy way for the commission to actually see
Yeah.
that it's actually counting the votes, even if they didn't fill in the oval.
Okay. Super. Excellent work, y'all.
And then the other thing that we went back to look at is instructions on the express vote for write-in candidates. I know that Jim had talked about how did the voters even know who the write-in candidates were. And so this was, I just looked around to see maybe what other states had done, how they gave instructions to, to their voters. And so I kind of mocked this after another state, but they basically put the two offices there. So every candidate name is listed, and then along with the write-in candidates. So if the commission likes this can be placed on the express votes at at every polling location, and then we can work up something similar for the absentee ballots.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If the commission,
Yeah, one more piece of paper in the absentee
Sure.
ballots, right? Why not? Okay, so we're permitted to do this explanation.
That's a question that I have.
What's your thought?
I don't know. I feel like could this, I guess I probably know the answer. Could this be a pop-up when somebody clicks on a writing candidate? Like, could this be a pop-up information at that point?
it can't be programmed into the ballot. So it would have to be posted. So my thought process on this is the information of the writing candidates is posted at the polling location with the notice of election. So instead of posting the entire notice of election, I just pulled out the write-in part of it and posted it along with the instructions. But this is definitely something I can send this to the SBEC to see if there is a legal reason for it not to be posted.
I don't know. I mean, I guess
just a thought.
a concern I would have is posting this right there on the machine as just a physical thing could arguably be said to encourage people to vote for writing candidates over and above other candidates who are
So
on
I
the
would
ballot.
ask the question then, when I open up the express vote and it lists all of the candidates who are affiliated with a party, and the write-in candidates are not there, is it encouraging people to vote for the party candidates instead of a write-in candidate?
I mean, I would think under Arkansas statute that sets it up that way. I mean,
It's
as a matter
somewhat
of policy,
implicit,
yes,
isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
I would say that would be my interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm, I don't know. To me, a person that has been required in order to be authorized under the law to be a candidate, they have been required to go and pay the fee.
Right.
And on top of that, they've had to go to the trouble of sending a letter to
each
every
county.
election commission.
Since these are both county.
and they
or
can't
state-
be on
state
the ballot.
positions.
I'm not saying the process is as fair to the writing candidates. I'm just saying that the two-party system has written the statutes the way they have.
Yeah.
And that's the way the statutes are written.
I mean, to me, a write-in candidate, I mean, the name kind of says it. You've got to know the name and you've got to
Right.
write it in.
But
No,
it's kind of,
you gotta know the name.
It's
but-
not on the ballot. You don't get to be on the ballot. You've got to have your name written in.
but it's kind of a schizophrenic thing, if you ask me, because these people have made the effort. If you write in Harry Truman, that's not going to count.
Sure.
And I mean, we did have an example of that.
I mean, I think I would say before we decide on this, one way or another, let's look at the statutes and let's ask the SBEC
I
what
agree.
they think.
I agree.
Because, I'm not arguing against this. I'm just sharing
Right.
concerns
Yeah.
that I have with posting it based on the system and the statutes that are out there. So I think we should ask the SBEC and ask them what statutes apply, Jennifer, and to give us their opinion.
Okay.
And whether or not they think this covers the necessity for people to know who the candidate, I mean, as you say, it is in the notice of election. But how many people are going to read that?
So the notice of election is a required
Right.
posting at the polling
Right.
location.
And it's required to put writing candidates' names on that notice
On
of
that.
election who've complied with that process.
I've not ever asked that question, but we've
Oh.
always just included them because how else, I just,
How else would people know?
right.
Oh, and you've
Hey,
actually
and they-
included them right in the main part. Yeah.
Because I feel like at some point you have to post it somewhere, maybe, I don't
Let's
know.
ask the SBEC.
I'll
Let's
ask-
ask the SBEC what statutes apply.
Yeah.
specifically, so we can take a look at them.
I
and
know
can
they-
Provide their opinion.
I know the SOS certified a list of write-in candidates to us.
Was that at the same time that they did the other candidates from
Yeah.
state?
They certified a list
Okay.
of write-in candidates to us. And then we have the documents that those write-in candidates filed with
Right.
our county to narrow it down, the ones that then would appear on our ballot. I hadn't thought about it in the notice of election,
So
but
let me ask one other question.
I'll
At
ask,
that
yeah.
point-
Ask.
At that point in the process, they've done all the filing and everything. The same thing that the candidates who are affiliated with parties have done, with recognized parties or whatever.
Right.
Why can't we put them right on the ballot with the rest of them? Just like this one that you were just looking at has them listed.
well, they can't go on the ballot.
Why not?
Because the
It-
process is dictated by law
Yeah.
specifically.
Okay.
It,
We-
it
and we
does
don't-
say
we
it does
don't
say that for the ballot. That is a definite. The notice of election is
question.
Different thing.
a different question.
I mean, we don't, of course, we don't write the laws or dictate the process.
I understand.
We're-
I'm trying to
we're just
understand.
following it.
I'm trying to understand, what this whole thing's about, and I don't wanna, drag us off into the weeds about it. It's just.
I think it's a
not
legitimate
correct.
question. And I think that the law has somewhat
I mean,
muddied
the law
it.
makes it
Yeah.
intentionally
make it right.
difficult for a write-in candidate to gain votes
I'm not
as
even-
compared to people who make the ballot.
Absolutely.
If I had paid the fee and I had then had to go to the extra step of writing a letter to every county, every one of the county 75 election
Yeah.
commissions, and then I couldn't get my name on the ballot, I'd probably be pretty ticked off. I don't know about
Well,
you.
do they pay a fee or do they get
They pay their-
signatures?
I don't know that they pay a
Oh, that you don't.
fee. I don't
Yes,
think
yes,
so
they
because
do.
that's the whole idea behind a
See,
write-in
I
candidate.
misunderstood that.
Yeah,
they're
the
not paying the
idea-
party-
they
there's
don't
no
pay the
party
That's
party
right, they're not
fee.
paying a party filing.
But the idea behind the write-in candidate is that if someone
You have
doesn't
some
have the
support.
money to
Yeah.
pay a fee, you still have access to the ballot. And
If-
How
there's-
would you, if you had the money to pay a fee, you don't pay a fee to the Secretary of State's office. It's not a filing fee there. It's a filing fee to the
To the
party.
party.
To the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I'm,
But I
and
think
then
they have
corrected
to.
them.
And the
That's-
parties, of course, have written the laws, to dictate this process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that the signatures that they have to gather is probably part of the, we'll see if
So
you've got
they've
enough
got another set of-
support.
they got another set of hoops to jump through.
Yeah, that's right.
In order to be an official, write-in candidate. Well, the names need to be somewhere, and maybe you've got it right to begin with, maybe just,
On the notice of election.
Notice of election, as people are coming in. If they've got the idea they're gonna vote for a write-in candidate, they need to look at that notice
Yeah.
of election.
We'll confirm with
Yeah.
Chris and see. I hadn't thought about not including them in the notice of election, but and we've never
Kind of
gotten
wondered.
direction.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
ask that question too. Obviously,
Yeah,
if
so
that's
why, I mean, the question is, why would they need to send if I sit and think of, why would the legislature have required that they send a letter to,
Yeah.
unless they expected that letter to, it had some intent to cause the election commissions in each county to take some action?
And we do, in that we do count the ballots for people who've sent the letter
Well, I think
and gone through the process.
the way I look at it is just a formalization of, hey, I'm a candidate too. But unfortunately, I don't know that they've ever gone beyond, subscribing what we do after you say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a candidate.
All right.
So, yeah, if you will check on that, we've got some time to cogitate on how we're gonna handle this, but if we've got any kind of direction from the SBEC, we need it.
Yeah, because we don't want to do anything that violates, knowingly
Exactly,
violates,
yeah.
anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. Okay, have we discussed all that, Ben?
guess we
Writing
beat that
procedures and so forth? Okay, FOIA request. This is,
This will be.
or is this further
Yes,
on?
no,
Oh,
this is, so we have been receiving, and I know that the commission has been receiving a request for what's called a cast vote record.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically for the 2020 election. And for the 2020 election, the cast vote record basically is line by line, each individual ballot and how that ballot was voted. For 2020, the software that we used for that election, unless specific steps were taken to archive the election, which was not mandated by law, that report does not exist for 2020. Okay? So, and that's how I've been answering those questions for the 2020 request for the ballot review report and for the cast vote record.
Okay.
So for 2020, it does not exist. For 2022, the new software that we have, that report is available as we do read in the results.
Oh, uh-huh.
So we've had some requests for it for the 2022 primary and the 2022 primary runoff. And because we do have that, I have answered those FOIA requests with this report. But I thought you might want to see what the report looks like, because obviously we have it in our office. But this report, it's the last page of it, the legal size. This is the cast vote record. This is from our testing that we've done. And basically, we just condensed the report. Normally, the report would have every single office on it.
Oh.
And it would reflect every single ballot that is cast.
So it would be many, many, many pages.
Many pages long. This is just a condensed version
Gotcha.
for the commission just to review. The ballots are completely randomized. There's no way to track a ballot to
Okay,
a voter in this report at all. And we verified that again this morning we actually numbered the ballots that we ran in, and this is not the order at all in which we ran the ballots in. So
It is this last page you said?
it's that last page. And so basically, I ran in 9 sheets of paper this morning because we have a 2-page ballot. And so that's what is reflected in this report, those ballots.
So essentially, you're preparing for the requests and trying to figure out a way that this is all gonna be able to be reported.
Yes, because I suspect that after the general election,
We'll
we
have more
will
requests.
receive this request for the general election. And since this reporting is now available in the new software that we have, I think it's important for us to, to make sure that the commission is aware of exactly what the report is. Right. And before we send out these reports, that, your numbers match, because that's important to know that whenever I do send this out, that the number of ballots reflected in this report are actually the certified numbers from that election.
That just to verify that the correct report is being pulled.
Yes. Yeah.
That reflects the numbers in the election.
Yes. And so the other report that they've requested is what's called the batch review. That's where it shows you the total 9 ballots, and that's just rather than how each ballot was voted, it's kind of a summary of the ballots. Essentially what has been looked at on this report, what they're looking for is the reporting. Was that ballot cast during early vote, election day, or absentee? So when they're looking for that is what they're looking at for that report. And then I've got a write-in review because that's what we were working for on the write-in candidates. But what's important for us to note is for our absentee ballots, because we have a 2-page ballot, the cast vote record report will not be reflective of the total number of voters. It's going to be reflective of the total number of sheets that are counted. So that's really, really important for our county to note. Not every county is going to have a 2-sheet ballot, but for our county, we will have a 2-sheet ballot. Now, election day and early vote, because it's all straight express vote, that will be
Eliminate that.
one for one.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at the absentees, we will have to, know ourselves that cast vote record is actually reflective of the sheets counted. So what you have, that first page shows you that I ran in 4 precincts. So basically that would represent the 4 voters. However, I ran in just individual back sheets of that where it doesn't reflective as the public count. This goes back into how we're gonna have to remake absentee ballots and all of that. And it's the total sheets processed is 9, which is reflective of what the cast vote record shows. So it matches what we did here. But if for some reason we ran in a back sheet without a front sheet, this cast vote record would be off from our total voters, I guess I should say, total voters.
Because we're not gonna get both sheets back from the
It's
ballot
possible.
for every single voter.
Possibly. So that would be a difference in the two. So I just wanted, anticipating
Right.
what we may see after the
This is the
General.
only place where this is gonna happen, though, is on the absentees.
The only place it will happen will be the absentees.
Okay,
And the only place it will show up is in the cast vote record report?
right.
Okay.
Yep.
So whoever runs the absentees is gonna really have to be on their toes.
Well, we'll just have to, that was what I was saying, we're gonna set out and practice a plan for our absentees
Yeah.
and our remaking and running them through, because that part of the accounting has to be
Right.
perfect,
Right.
because we need our numbers to be reflective of what it truly is.
Right.
And so we will go through those steps before we get there, and I'll bring that plan to the commission on exactly how we're gonna do that. But I just want you to be aware of this.
Yeah, that's
thank you.
gonna be tricky. Okay. Anything else on that? Anybody praying for it? We're gonna need a lot of
We
prayer.
need a lot, yeah.
I know. Okay, on this, we've had the FOIA requests, and we've also, I assume you guys have gotten communication by email from various people about the FOIAs and about submitting our, voter registration information, I don't know, all the details about our voting process. They want to put it on a website, at least one, right?
That
Who's they?
and it's how how we're hiring poll workers.
Oh,
It's
that's
more,
right.
It's
There's
the
part of it.
poll worker
Yeah.
information.
That's a separate thing than the FOI request?
Yeah,
though,
it
right?
is.
That was
It
just
is.
some organization
Is this
But-
trying to help.
is this item 7? that we're-
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, so I see.
And Yeah, it is separate.
Yeah,
But-
I got one email.
But there, and I thought about this the other day when I was looking at the agenda and thought, we need to actually talk about this whole thing, because I keep going back to that time when we had the election where we had people who came in and said, well, I registered online
Oh, sure.
Oh.
and
Yeah.
they were not eligible to vote because they had registered on some,
Yeah.
do you remember what it was?
Yeah, there was like it looked like a federal database where you could go on and you could check to see if you were registered to vote, and if you weren't, then it directed you to
Boom,
a
I'm registered.
PDF to
remember.
fill out, and then they thought they were registered to vote. Yeah.
And I was talking to Jennifer about it and thought, my point of view on that is, we don't get involved in outside websites that we know nothing about. But at the same time, I think, and this is something that we haven't talked about, but I think if we can find a way to on our streaming service to put votewashco.com at the bottom of it, and always have that on the website or on the streaming, so that people at any time can go to votewashco.com and decide, have I registered to vote? And we know that site is reliable, and it's not gonna, kick them out and say, well, we didn't really want you to be registered or something. So if you can check into that, but I wanted to get you guys input on that, because my personal sense is that if we can't count on an outside source, we don't know their reliability, we don't want to send our information and, in essence, our imprimatur to them to say, yeah, we trust you that you're gonna get this all right.
I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't disagree. I guess my thought is, hey, we could send them a link to the page of our website that
Yeah.
recruits poll workers and says, here's our application and our process to fill it out. If you want to put this on your site, that this is how Washington County poll workers can get registered, go for it. But here's our site and our process, because we have it on there for anyone who
Yeah,
wants
well,
to be a poll worker.
and that's the thing, but I think that we're at somebody else's mercy for doing it accurately, and unless they just put our website on there and leave it at that. Jim,
Yeah.
your thoughts?
I think I agree, if I understand this correctly, with Max, that if somebody is reaching out to us, and I think he's agreeing with you, that votewashco.com is the information we should
Yeah.
give them, and that's it.
Yeah.
And say, okay, if you want to do this, guide people to this site, because this is where you can get the truth and nothing but the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and the whole truth too.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sitting here just nodding my head and agreeing. You guys are right.
Well, I just keep going back to that memory of that one election, and I just think that we cannot, if people think that they have been registered to vote, or if they've looked into, I want to be a poll worker, and they're not getting the answers, or they think they've got the answers and then they don't, that is not good for us.
Yeah, good analogy to that prior situation.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
point.
So I wanted us all to be on the same page about that.
That makes sense.
And
yeah, that makes sense.
if you get these emails asking, don't you want to, I don't know, line up with us, send them votewashco.com and be done with it.
Sounds good.
Okay, budget request.
Okay. So, we have talked about a few of these in previous meetings.
Mhm.
We would need to make a request to the quorum court for some of these budget items rather than trying to take them out of our general
Right.
supplies or small equipment. The first one is for the soft hardware support maintenance. That's the one where for our programming and our computer, we had a huge price adjustment that we were not made aware of until
Right.
we received the bill in January, which was after we had submitted our budget the previous year.
And had it approved.
Yes, and so we would need to request that money. And then, I don't know, I'll need to talk to Jennifer about this one. Fire and extended coverage, that's, our insurance.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of set by them, and I've always just kind of gone with whatever they showed in the
Oh.
previous year. There must have been a price increase
Yeah.
So,
in that as well, so that's reflective of why there's a shortage there. When we did the money for fuel, obviously we did not anticipate fuel prices being double what
Right.
they were, or even, more. So we could conceivably pull that money from general supplies. However, fuel is one of those line items that I can get almost
Oh,
100% of that back. So I would hate to bring it out of general supplies when it's a billable expense for us. And so that would bring a request that we would need to submit to the quorum court for $18,115.62.
Okay, so the soft hardware support and maintenance, $14,000 is the big piece of this.
Yes.
And you say that we must have, or we did, there was a price increase. Now, are you talking about, is this ES&S?
This is ES&S, yes.
And
Explain to
we
him.
didn't know about it?
No. So when we proposed our budget in
September,
2021 of September, I based our maintenance on what we had paid in previous years. When we received the bill in January, February, the bill was $14,444 more than what we had requested in our budget. And I went back and forth with ES&S for several months. Well, why is it increased, and why were we not notified of the increase in the previous year when we're making our budget? And the increase is due, one, just in general increases, but the other has to do with the number of registered voters that we have. So our maintenance contract is based on our registered voters, which continues to increase.
Is it because of okay, so it's the registered voters
Yeah,
that we have listed on the registration sheets in the Becky's office.
Yes, and they have basically a price point, if you're between this and this is the cost. And so we're now in the higher cost level.
So now that's a good time to ask maybe how many registered voters really aren't in Washington County anymore for whatever reason that are on that list. Do we
So
know that?
Becky, in June, Becky did all the, where they send out the lists and try and remove voters. And so as of June 1st, it's a pretty good list of, I think it's 138,000 or 140,000, something close to that.
So when you say she sends out the list, what is that process? Is if she sends something to somebody at an address and she doesn't get a response, do they remove that person?
They do they do at least one more, if not two more attempts. I know for sure one more attempt. And then they do get removed from the voter rolls. And it takes close to, they always talk about it in terms of presidential cycles. So it takes close to 8 years. It's between 6 and 8
if you
years.
don't vote in 2 federal elections, is that it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you know what part of this $14,400 was due to increase in number of voters, and what part of it was due to what you, I think, referred to as just a general increase?
So Craig did not give me that breakdown, except to let me know also that we had been paying lower than what we should have been paying
Oh,
for
I've
at least
heard
3
that.
years.
Don't you
I
feel
know.
better
People
about
so
that?
much.
I know,
Oh,
I know.
man.
However,
I used to be in sales. I know that line.
However, I will tell you that I do know it's true because Benton County's has
Yeah.
always been higher
Yeah.
than ours.
Well, they're just
And-
not as good by buyers as we are.
Well, that's true.
And I've always
But we
wondered,
didn't negotiate this deal,
and
unfortunately.
I've always wondered why hers was
Yeah.
higher and ours was more similar
Kept
to,
your mouth shut, didn't you?
I did for 3 years. I was like, okay,
Zip it.
he's not. So our bill now is reflective of more is closer to
I
Benton
think we need to
County's.
know, sooner if possible.
Yeah.
When they're gonna have a price increase, general price increase. We also need to know how they calculate the
per voter.
cost based on the number of registered voters. And next time we're doing this, this plan and going to the quorum court for approval, we probably need to get those numbers and make
That's a
that
good point.
calculation.
I
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
since I know the budgets are being looked at right now, I will go ahead and reach out to Craig and make sure that for 2023,
Yeah.
that I should not receive a bill that I should receive a bill that's the same as what we have
Comparable.
this year.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Tell him this old engineer sitting on the committee wants to know how they calculate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request.
Well, I agree. It's a very reasonable and good request.
Especially considering what this increase was.
And them considering ESNS is dealing with governmental entities that budget
Yeah, good
in
point.
advance.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah.
And our fire and extended coverage, that's an insurance,
Yes.
and we didn't know that was gonna go up.
No, that I never see any of those bills except for the comptroller says that here's your portion of it. So when it increases, that I think that's done at a county level for the entire county, and then this is
Okay,
our
well,
little
then
portion of
that
it.
part of it, you can point back to the quorum court and say, hey,
True, yeah.
the reason we didn't
It's
know
all your
that.
fault.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're
No,
fine.
it's good.
Okay, well, we're gonna get this ironed out before the end of the year.
What do we need to do
I had
here?
a call in.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
We're gonna have to, have an ordinance and present it to the quorum court.
Okay,
But as I said, as Jennifer said, right now, they're working on the 23 budget.
all right.
So I talked with a JP, and I think I confused him by doing this in the middle of the 23 budget. So
Okay.
I'm kind of pulling back on that. Anyway,
Cool.
other questions?
No, thanks.
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
also have been visiting with Benton County, and for the DS200s, I know
Oh,
that we
yeah.
talked
Yeah.
we talked about that. Benton County has a lot more. They have extra DS200s, even extra DS200s that they don't, and so we are going to look to see about possibly purchasing DS200s from Benton County, and they should be well below, the $5,000. They're gonna get with their assessor and see, how much they could sell them to us for, and that way that will give us extra DS200s. In the meantime, we'll be able to borrow some, which means for those 3 sites, I know that Max, you've always
Oh,
had
yeah.
concerns about that
Yeah.
we don't have DS200s there. We'll have DS200s there
Yeah.
for the general election
Hey,
this year.
that's great. Well
So,
done.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you for
So,
asking.
yeah,
that's
Well, it's
great
just
that-
amazing that she would know they had
yeah.
extra
The
equipment.
communication and the coordination with Benton County and with other counties
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, working together. Thank you for doing
Yeah,
that. That's
so
great.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I just feel kind of bad about them buying so much more equipment.
The state purchased half of it, and then they purchased half of it. So
Oh.
she will work out all of
Yeah.
that, and then I'll come to the commission with the cost for it.
Good.
But I think that obviously it'll be a reasonable cost, and
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, we can borrow
Yeah,
from
Cool.
them.
super.
So
Okay.
That's wonderful. keep pursuing that. Okay, voter information. These are your meetings that you are presenting to the county.
Yes, I attended the one on September 1st, and that was basically for voters with disability and making sure that we have access at the polling locations. And it was a great meeting in the sense that to get feedback from the community on what can we do better at the polling location. So I will coordinate with them a little bit more, just kind of talk about, this was the phrase that they use, disability etiquette training. You know, like if someone who comes in and they are visually impaired voting and they aren't assisted, you know, the proper way to take that voter over to the express vote. If a voter comes in and they're deaf, the proper way to, you know, to communicate with that voter. We'll follow up with that organization, and I'll incorporate that in our training for our supervisors that we'll have at the end of the month, just to make sure that, you know, voters are comfortable at the polling location and we're doing everything we can for accessibility at the polls. So
Do we have any idea what kind of population numbers we're talking about on that?
no, I don't know what the number is. I do know that we've worked with this organization in the past, just to especially when we got the new voting equipment.
Right.
We took the voting equipment there to kind of do a demonstration, and it varies on the disability. But the main thing is making sure that our polling locations are ADA compliant, and then our processes fall in guidelines with those as well.
Okay. Super. What else? September 15th.
That will be with the assisted living and nursing home directors for the voter statements and the applications, to just make sure that they're, you know, filling out everything they need to fill out so that we can count those ballots. And then, of course, the 19th is the class for how elections are conducted in Washington County.
Super. Are people already signing up for that?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet. We had a small class the last time I did it. I know it was in 2021, and there was about 15 people. Maybe since it's right before the general election, maybe there'll be more. I don't know.
Do we have any way to advertise that?
Osher does. So it's
good.
through
Okay.
Osher,
Yeah.
The Osher Learning Center.
Okay.
So yeah.
Super, because I'd like to see that number really increase. All right. Anything else on that? Training? Let's go on to that.
And same, we'll have the high schools come, and then supervisors, we've reached out to them, and then the refresher training as well. So we're moving forward with all of that.
Super. Other business.
None from me.
None.
All
I
right.
do have a message from Chris,
Oh,
State
okay.
Board. He says,
He's watching our meeting?
no, we texted him. So, the notice of election, yes, we can include the names in the notice of election, but we cannot post the names on the express vote.
Oh.
So,
Well, so what we've been doing is the right thing.
yes.
Cool.
Why
Quick
didn't we
answer.
know that? Why didn't I know that?
I don't know. We haven't had writing candidates in a
Yeah.
while,
No, we
so they
haven't.
don't come
We
up that
haven't.
often.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Good to check
that's,
into it.
we've got meetings on the 13th, and are we gonna have a meeting before then?
I would like to. I have been working on our reimbursement for the primary and primary runoff,
Okay.
so that we can get the county reimbursed for that. I think for the primary, I'm at about $179,000 that I'm seeking reimbursement for. So we will need to sign that, and then at that meeting too, I should have a plan for us for the canvassing
Okay.
for us to
Okay.
discuss.
So you want that before or after the 13th of October?
That is kind of up to the commission on what you would.
Do we have other items that are,
I'll be out of town from. I'm sorry, we're,
hold off.
We're having conversation. I'll be out of town from the 17th of September until, hang on a second. I'll be back on the 26th.
Okay,
Cool.
so we should probably,
No meetings
Or
during that time.
maybe 27th, I'm not sure. Make it the 27th.
Do
we
we
should-
have anything that we need to meet about next week, or?
I'm out of town next week.
It doesn't sound like we have anything anyway
Yeah.
until the very end of September or the beginning of October
Right.
at the earliest. I mean, we are gonna have items before October 13th.
Right,
Something always comes
right,
up.
yeah.
So maybe the first week in October, can
If
we
something-
do that?
So I don't know, whatever day kind of works for you.
How
October the
about in a
3rd.
month, October the 5th?
Okay,
What do you guys?
October the 5th is,
Yeah.
of course, a work day for me in the morning, but
We
I
can
will
do
be
afternoon.
available
What other days are not work days that week for you?
Tuesday and Thursday. I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings.
Oh, okay.
Let me double check
Wait a
my
minute,
schedule
Monday.
here.
Yeah.
We could do Thursday that week. I think I've
The
got.
6th,
I think I've got a hearing on Tuesday.
Thursday
Okay.
the 6th.
October 6th. That's a week before this other, before L&A.
and that'll
And we
give
can
us,
cancel it if there's nothing happening, if we don't need to meet.
True,
I mean,
true.
but it seems likely that there will be some.
Yeah.
I would think so,
Yeah.
and that way we can discuss the absentee ballot canvassing
Oh, yeah.
and the remaking of the ballots, and then we can digest.
Right.
And then when we come back, because that meeting that we have scheduled for the 13th is really just signing
Oh, that's right.
the
Yeah.
paperwork for LNA and signing
Okay.
the paperwork for the notice of election. So then, if we need to further go into the canvassing part, we can take that back up on the 13th
Okay,
So would that be a 9 o'clock meeting then, you think?
at 9.
Sure.
that
Okay.
works for me. Okay. 9 a.m., October the 6th, and then on the 13th.
6th, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Any other thoughts?
Nothing from me. I think we had a question.
Yeah, is this a question for the commission or a question for Jennifer? Okay, come forward. And your name is?
My name is Clint Schneckloff. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys are doing and your platform. Turn it on.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So I'm the pastor at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. It's here in Fayetteville, and we have a pretty significant connection to the Marshallese community. And there's one kind of like voter topic that I think could be good to have on your agenda just to be thinking about. It's a little bit unusual to describe, but if I describe it, it'll help you maybe think about how to be related to it. So the issue is that, as you may know, the Marshallese people have a different legal status in the United States than other immigrants who come here. They have a compact, so when they come, they never actually become U.S. citizens if they move here from the Marshall Islands. There's not a pathway to citizenship. They remain as Marshallese residents who have a compact with the U.S. because of historic things with the U.S. What happens then is that you have a whole block of people who spend their whole lives here and they don't vote because they can't vote. So they're legally can be here, but they can't vote. However, their children can once they're 18. So if their children are born in the United States, then they're U.S. citizens, and when they turn 18, they can vote. Well, the Marshallese have now been here long enough that increasing numbers of people coming here have been here long enough that they have kids who are coming of age. And we had last election cycle, we probably helped about 300 Marshallese young adults get registered to vote and vote in the last election cycle. The 18-year-olds only speak English because they were raised in the US and that's what they're exposed to in school. And so they don't need any special like access stuff themselves. However, their parents, many of them only still also speak Marshallese. And if you're going to orient the population of people that are coming up who can vote to know that they can and understand their relationship to the US is different than their parents who came under the compact, we probably need interpretive materials for that population so that they can understand better how they relate to the election process and the voting process. So my forward-thinking ask of you is to think about whether or not we ought to be producing materials together with what else you give out, you know, in terms of helping people know how to get in to vote, that might be Marshallese-facing materials that help Marshallese parents whose kids are being raised to know how to talk to their own kids about what their rights are compared to their own parents. I know it's kind of complex, but it's a not insignificant percentage of the total population of Washington County and is only going to grow and be more people than presently. So I just wondered if you might want to put that on as an agenda item and think about how you might have like access Marshallese interpreters to create some documents that might go out to Marshallese families.
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, we talked about Spanish translation last time. We've asked the state to translate the ballot into Spanish, and if the state won't do that, then we are going to do that.
Okay.
Clint, we need Marshallese interpreters at some of the sites. Like the best way for that process to happen is folks can be poll workers. And they get paid, is it $11 an hour, $12 an hour now?
$11.30.
$11.30. So if you know anyone, this is sort of just a related thought. If you know anyone who can translate between English and Marshallese, who would like to work as a poll worker, they could sign up as a poll worker with us and get paid, and then be there at the polls to address anybody who comes in who just speaks Marshallese.
Yeah, and so that's,
sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just throwing that out there, you know, as one issue, if you know of anybody. Because we could work them into the process. But then, the second, I was going to ask Jennifer, have we ever translated the ballot into Marshallese? Have we ever, because we used to work with, I know a group in Springdale to translate it into Spanish. Have we ever done that with Marshall?
We did. When we first got our voting equipment, we actually did a couple of YouTube videos that were translated into Marshallese. And so I have worked with, you know, I've worked with several groups, and I'm always open to do the same type of things as we've done in the past. So just if you'll reach out to me, or and I can kind of see more. Part of, I think, your request though is not so much about at the polls on election day interpretations. It's more about awareness of the fact that they can be registered to vote and should be trying to actively get registered to vote.
Yeah, I know that this is kind of a complex thing, but what you're really trying to do is in order to activate a group of voters, which I think we all want to do, is to make sure everybody who can legally vote knows about it, is you're having to essentially like break a chain in the sense that their parents couldn't because of the way our current laws are set up around the compact, but they can. And so how do you prepare an 18-year-old who before they're 18 to know that they can register to vote and what all that stuff is? They need those parents who may only speak Marshallese probably need education and access to educational resources to know how to prepare their child to vote. That's what I'm talking about. And yeah, maybe that's something you would do too, because I know you do like educational events or videos or whatever. So just was wanting to raise that particular kind of thing as a thing to focus on.
And I do know that at the Springdale High School, which we work closely with, and we actually get students from Springdale High School to work as poll workers for us, there's always a group of Marshallese students that sign up to be poll workers to help us at the polls on election day. And as I do the student training, because this is kind of, I think, the group that you're looking at, we do talk to the teachers, the civics teachers, and the students themselves about making sure that they get registered to vote at 17 and a half, because that then prepares them, if they turn 18 by election day, they're eligible to vote. So definitely, as I'm working with the students and the teachers at the schools, that's something we can look at as well. Because
Okay.
I know several have expressed getting their students registered to vote. And actually, I think Springdale High School, one of the teachers I talked to, she's getting the students registered to vote, and then they're going to bring the students to the polls to vote on a certain day during early vote. So, yeah.
Albius has done that too. That's our staff person, and one of the ways he's gotten especially a lot to go to vote is he promises to take them out to the Chinese buffet afterwards, which works really well. So, not that you guys have to do that part.
We'll leave that to the people who are helping us.
I want somebody to take me to the Chinese buffet when I vote too. So. Well, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Again, the pitch is real for poll workers.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know
that's right.
anybody who, because to me, long term, to get any population more involved in the civic process and voting and engagement, if you start getting some people to be poll workers and to be involved in the process, it'll kind of organically reach out to other folks. So
I
we
agree
need-
with you.
We need more young people to be poll
Right,
workers. We need
absolutely.
more Marshallese people to be poll workers. So anybody you know who you can pass along, it's a paid opportunity, and it's a cool way to be a part of the process.
Well, and
Send them to me. To
that's
us.
a very smart thing, because what you're saying is it's more than just having the access to the Marshallese at the poll. It's that the poll worker, if they come and work there, then they tell
Right.
people about that process.
and they'll be engaged
Yeah,
in it for
yeah,
the rest
thank
of their
you.
lives,
That's great.
presumably.
And
Okay.
obviously, our purview, we've got lanes that we work in, and our purview is about election day and elections and that type of thing. As far as information for the parents in Marshallese language, that's not something that we would normally probably get involved in.
Whose lane is that? Yours?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's something with the school.
It really has to start with somebody lighting that fire,
Yeah.
because our mission is a little more narrowed in that we're preparing and conducting elections.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And we do a little bit of PR. We certainly, with the assisted living locations, we try to get the supervisors, or I forget what they're called, help them know exactly how to help their residents fill out the paperwork, so that when they leave a name off, their ballot doesn't get thrown out because it hasn't followed the whole process.
Yeah.
That's more of a what we're trying to do. We see problems with a certain community that they're more likely to have their ballot thrown out because they haven't followed the law. And so we see that from this end, and we want to help them to get that done. They're the Oshler.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure, yeah. Mhm.
That's an outreach that the university basically sponsors that, don't they?
They do. It's through their classes.
Yeah.
And we were approached about just basically that class focuses on how do we conduct elections, and how elections are performed, because voters have questions about that. So
You may have picked this up from our discussion a few minutes ago, but inform the young Marshallese to reach out to votewashco.com. Votewashco.com. That's where Jennifer and, basically
all the
puts all of our
information's there.
information
Yeah. Mhm.
about elections and signing up and that type of thing. So I think that's a good place for them to go. I'm not saying they need to bypass their parents, but, there's a good place for them to go to learn things.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we appreciate
Thank you.
your
Thank you.
coming, and Oh, do we have another question?
Hi, Monique Jones. I'm a resident of Fayetteville. I'm the Director of Outreach at St. James Missionary Baptist Church, and same issues is making sure we're addressing our minorities. I know in Washington County, I was looking at the data just on, in District 18, where I'm running for House Representative, that 25% are minorities. And so I know you mentioned earlier that you'll be posting this in the paper 2 Sundays, then I see this is your responsibility to post this in Spanish as well. If we know that 25% of our county are speaking a different language or are reading and comprehending in a different language, what is our responsibility as a county to make sure that we're also providing that information that they can read in their own native language? So my 2 questions are, will we at least try to get this converted into Spanish? And then what 2 Sundays would those be posted? I know you said you do it 2 Sundays before the election, and then what 2 Sundays? And maybe one of the 2 we can start with, but somewhere we have to start the process. And I've had this conversation with Mayor Sprouse in Springdale too. When you know that the census data provides information that says that you have minorities at a higher rate, that we have to start making sure we're meeting them where they are. And so that's why I'm asking, this right here is what you're saying you're gonna post, then let's meet our minorities where they are. The other question that I have is there's also a huge homeless population. And so I was looking yesterday is if someone homeless wants to vote and they complete a ballot in Section C, they can make a notice of where they're living. If they do not have an address, will that voter's registration ballot be kicked back to them?
On the second one, we don't deal with voter registration, so,
Okay.
so I don't know. That would
Okay.
be a question for the county clerk.
Okay.
On that piece, I don't know.
And then the last question was Osher Learning Center. You're collaborating with the university. Are they providing any of that language training in a different language? Or is it all in English?
So it's basically, it's a class. It's
Okay.
not, so it's a class that I put together just on how elections are conducted. And it deals, it doesn't necessarily deal with a lot of, like when a voter goes to the polls on election day and votes. It's more geared to how we're preparing for the election, such as the logic and accuracy, how we're making sure that our elections are safe and secure, about our voting equipment, how we do the elections at night, we certify the elections. So it's not as much
Nuts and bolts.
voter centered as like what you're going to see at the polls on election day. But how do I know that when I voted for candidate A, it was a vote for candidate A?
Okay.
That's the focus of that class.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then the last one, I think, Max, you were correct that getting them out to become poll workers is instrumental. And I said 1390 because I know in different states, if you ask someone to speak a different language, which is a higher level, that they pay them more. They don't get paid at the same level. So I'd like you to do the research to find out from the state level, if somebody comes in and translates at a polling location and using a different language, are they paid at a higher level than someone than a normal poll worker? They're bringing a different level of expertise to your polling location in a different language. And so I just wanted to know, would they be paid at a different level or the same level? And that's just a quick research because other states do. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
You're welcome.
Beth, you're the only one left.
Well, thank you. I did have some questions, but I think they covered everything.
Perfect. All right, well, this meeting is now adjourned.